If you are here for the first time, my name is John Win from Win Elements. Our mission is to empower teachers to provide learning equity for all students. Now in this video, we are going to talk about what is distant learning, and we just complete our first 2 weeks of distant learning. It has been a very fun and challenging experience as well. So in this video, we are going to share with you some of the mistakes that we have learned through that first 2 weeks and some of our strategy that we have created in the process to provide high quality of distant learning for our student. So let's be realistic. A lot of us assume that distant learning is something like this, right? The student at home have their parent sitting next to them provide some additional support. Or to some extent right here, we continue to look some of more of the brighter future, be optimistic about it, right? And then we have student at home on the bed engaged in the lesson, or on the desk engaged in the lesson, and then again, we have another image, in this case, the parent at home supporting the student working on asynchronous activity. But here we have a student who are struggling with a task. And this is actually a brighter, more optimistic look of distant learning. And during our first 2 weeks, the reality of distant learning is that a lot of us are talking to this little block of empty images, and the reality of the first 2 weeks with distant learning is that kids do not want to turn their camera on, and the reality of the first 2 weeks of distant learning is that our students do not want to turn the camera on. No matter what you do, they do not want to turn it on, and it makes sense. And when they turn the camera on, a lot of teachers share the story through online, and you realize, of course, why they don't want to turn the camera on. There are a lot of distractions, because they don't want their classmates to judge where they live and how they live as well. So it makes sense. A lot of students don't want to turn the camera on. And with that information, we also learned that Zoom and Google Meet quality is not as great as we think it is. There is a lot of lagging, not because of the platform itself, because of the quality of internet connection that the teacher has or the student have. And there are a lot of factors that contribute to the lagging quality of communicating with all the students through video platform. Now, for example, let's say if you have, this happen a lot of time when you have video turned on, right? And when we have video turned on, and if 2 or more people have their audio turned on, it is almost impossible to hear what is the other person is trying to say. So one mistake we learn right away, if we try to deliver direct instruction as if students are in our class, and you expect the visual and the audio quality to be the same as we are in class together, we are learning that the big time when we deliver our instruction the first day, or just talking to our student, it's just almost impossible to listen to our student, as well as they probably almost impossible to listen to us. So with that information, we are so glad that we kind of think about this over the summer, and we learn what happened when we taught distant learning during the summer, as well as after school closure in March. So we actually come up with a strategy, and basically we learn how to use today's technology to streamline the process, but also make learning a lot more flexible for our student. If we are making it more flexible for our student, it's also flexible for us, especially flexible for the parents as well. So here we have a centralized place to make announcement, and also a place where, for example, in our class, we have a forum where we make an announcement so that all our students can see it, and then we have a centralized place where the student can ask this question about the content in the class that we cover. And I teach chemistry and AP chemistry. You know, they have a lot of questions, especially for honor chemistry and AP chemistry. And then we also have a place where they can ask for making up missing work and fixing mistakes. So that way we don't have a lot of email, because you know, as teacher, we have a lot of email. Email is all the time. So in this case, using a learning management system website, we have a place that's centralized for all of our students to communicate to us, but also allow us to provide support for our student. And here we have an example of what a discussion look like. In this case, you have students from different period. They ask a question, and then I provide answer, and you can see that is timestamp, internal date, and the student provide some question, and student In this case, students from different period ask us a question, and we provide answers to our student using videos, images, or anything that integrate with Google Classroom and Google Drive to be exactly right, because using Kami and Google Drive, we can actually annotate and toughen the images, and then they can see our work as if we are in class together, and that's the beauty behind it. We centralize everything in this one forum, and as we update with our replies and new posts, we can sort by the date, so that way we know if we have new discussion coming in or new question coming in. And that has helped a lot for my AP Chem and my chemistry student, because now we start to solve chemistry problem. And then another factor is that using a learning management system, we can centralize all the grades. So basically all these grades are updated through real time. So that way, the moment the student finishes their work, they can see the changes in their grade right away. And also all the grade is linked to whatever they have. If I click on this magnifying glass, or the student click on it, they can see their grade as well. And they can see all the responses, how much time they spent on particular question, and how many attempts they tried to do this practice, or how many times they retry the question. So this has helped us and student as well in terms of student accountability, but also allow us to provide support for our student and provide a better understanding in terms of having a transparent learning process for our student. And when we have parent meeting, this type of data allow us to provide a meaningful discussion with our with the student parents as well as with the student, and how we provide a better understanding of the student learning progress and provide appropriate intervention right away, right? And of course, all the grades are calculated at the end, and then provide the student the final grade as well. So here we have an example of a work. In this case, we can see how much time the students invest on this question, what time they start, what time they finish, and what percentage they have. And then we can see which question they struggle with. And this allows us to provide support for all students. So again, this is not like traditional classroom where we have the privilege of sitting next to a student or standing next to a student to have that proximity. So we have to use today's technology to provide that personalized support, because now when I look at the student, what question they struggle with, I can provide support, right? And that's the beauty behind it, either through a forum or through a private chat during a live session. And as well for the student, they see their progress throughout the whole entire activity. A lot of time we realize through a lot of our fellow teachers who are through Facebook and through our online discussion, a lot of them continue to use HyperDocs or template with Google Doc, right? And they post an assignment where the student type in an answer. But in reality, they don't provide any feedback for a student. So at the end of the grading period, and this happened during summer, you have teachers complaining about student accountability. Well, duh, if you haven't provided any feedback throughout the whole entire process, what accountability are you going to expect from our student? So using the right learning management system website, we allow the student to attempt the problem and get that instant feedback, as well as get that instant grade in real time. And one thing John Hattie mentioned that I realized was one of the factor that has the greatest size effects on student learning is self-reported grade. And of course, it makes sense, because you think about it. When the students struggle or learning new content, they want to self-evaluate the moment they are learning the process. They don't want to wait a week or 2 weeks later when they have a final exam or a unit exam, and by then it's too late. And that makes a lot of sense. So this has tremendously helped us in terms of provide high quality and more rigorous learning experience for all of our students, especially for AP Chem. Now, of course, in this case, for every practice that they did, we have a complete data in terms of what are the student in terms of they completed by, what are something they struggle, and how much time they invest, and what are the questions they struggle with, right? And then, of course, there are more other data as well, and I can sort by student name to identify some of the outliers. Okay, we look at the next page, we have a few students who struggle with this, and we want to understand why. So by sorting by the grade, we can look at the student grade into which students struggle, how much time they invest in it, what are the questions they struggle with. And this are valuable data that we can use to provide meaningful support during a live session through private chat as well. And then here we also sort by the data numerical values Y. Over here we have graphs. Right here we can actually look at how many students and how many students are doing really well. And those are the type of data that we have been find very helpful in terms of allow us to streamline that learning equity, because now we can focus on these students and talk to them through private chat through a live session. And then we also one thing we realized that going back to the quality, the visual and the audio quality on both ends, the teacher and the student end, right, it's almost difficult. It's actually very difficult for a student to listen. So what we do, so using the learning management system website, we convert the videos that we have on YouTube or from Screencastify, and we basically adding questions throughout the video that assess student understanding throughout the whole entire process. So instead of listening to the bad quality through Zoom or through Google Meet, now the student have this high HD 1080p quality video with beautiful audio that we take the time to create the video. And notice how it's only 9 minutes, but it would take the student a whole entire hour to take notes and then answer the question and provide this rich and high quality of instruction that we provide to our student. And of course, this wouldn't be meaningful if we don't have the data behind it. Of course, our student access to this as well. Through this, we can actually see how well the student throughout the whole entire class, or all my classes, 160 something student. And look at this data, we can see where the student struggle, which student need provide support, and the student can reattempt the video and pause and take time to finish the video to have that beautiful and rich learning experience. And this is something that we learn that we value most, and we did this in our traditional classroom as well. We call it flip instruction, where we walk around and provide the student to learn at that individual pace. But when we transition to distance learning, this has worked perfectly. It's like a magic switch from blended learning to distance learning. And it's amazing if you can see the percentages. A lot of our students, I think 80% of our students get near 100%. And that is something that we really, really appreciate, that we learn by experimenting with this blended learning in the past, right? So if you notice the pattern, right, we invest a lot of planning time to provide this engaging and learning experience. It's not like traditional teaching where the planning is about making copy of a worksheet or download a PowerPoint and present to a student. No, we take the time to make the video high quality videos. We create assessment questions that we use over here, right, and that allow a student to learn in a way that based on what we teach them through the video. It's not something we just download online and do it. So that's one thing we realize about distance learning. It kind of opened this box of instruction in terms of that we have to think outside the box, right? That we cannot just rely on teacher, stage, center, or whatever you call it, deliver instruction anymore. It's no longer like that anymore. We have to think outside the box and utilize the technology that we have today to provide a better quality of instruction and a richer quality of instruction to our student. If we don't, you will see at the end of the semester when you realize how many students struggle through it. And you will see how many students will stop showing up to your live session because they are just giving up. Because once a student give up, they don't really care if they have an F anymore. You can call the parent up, you can nag at them. But the reality, if the moment they give up, they will give up for a long time. And that's what we're trying to do here. We want to provide a learning environment, a learning method, strategy that our students feel like they are being supported by us all the time, and they have that flexibility during this difficult time. So that is something that we learn. And of course, the student can see what mistakes they make, and we can see what mistakes they make and take a screenshot of this, put it in the forum, and then we can provide answers for them and explanation for them. And this is valuable data, right? Not only for teacher, but for a student as well. So those are the things that we learn through our distance learning. And again, we are no longer in person with a student, but again, we can make them feel connected as if we are in class with them. And the way we teach has to be redefined because of the technical difficulty or the internet connection that we have with our student. So one of the biggest challenge for you as teacher and for me is knowing what tool to use and how to use the tool, because a lot of teachers think about they always make this claim about, it's not about the technology. I'm telling you right now, it's about using the right technology. If you're using the wrong technology, you cause more trouble for yourself and the student and the parent than you can think of. So that's why we spend a lot of time investing on finding the right technology and the right tool and how to use them in our class. And through this process, I want to show you something, right? Through this process, we want to share with you something. Here on our website, we create a solution for. Right now, we are going to focus on distance learning. If we click on it, go to Win Elements, click on it, we are going to talk about the challenges and mistakes that we made or something that teachers online share with us. For example, right here, using the wrong tool, like Google Form. If you didn't notice, there's a lot of hacks on Google Form, and we actually explore ourselves that student can find a lot of answers very easily if you're using Google Form for your assessment. And here we are going to update specific strategy that we learn in our class. And then here we are going to have our weekly or daily podcast or vlog to share our experience and as well as our mistakes and our success through teaching distance learning. And if we transfer this from distance learning to hybrid learning, we all continue to share our teaching experience as well. And hopefully together we can provide a better and high quality of learning for our students, because education is a means not just to learn new content or concept, it's a means for many of our students to escape poverty, social oppression, or economic oppression. And eventually, education is a means for our students to gain economic freedom and financial freedom as they grow up and learn the content and become a master of it. And they themselves become a lifelong learner that they can use the skill that they learn now to be successful in higher education as well as in their career. So don't underestimate the profession of teaching. We have a lot of impact on our student future as well as their career. It's not about knowledge, but we have the opportunity to change their life. So hopefully you join us on this journey as we share our success and mistakes so that we can provide a better quality of education for our students. And hopefully we see you next time on another videos as you join us on this journey to transform our life as well our student life forever. And we see you next time on another video.